Welcome back, I am Captain Xavier, and this video is pretty much going to be me geeking out over two of my favorite nerddoms, Star Wars and Nerf, and how they have finally crossed, and what that means, and all the various ramifications and that comes from that, things that I plan to do with the various blasters that I have, some blasters I may still try to get my hands on, addressing some stuff that's come up in the comments. No doubt this will generate all manner of discussion in the comments, and I look forward to that. I am, of course, a Imperial sympathizer, as it were, and as a result, I've made some comments that have generated some interesting replies. We're going to start with this blaster and the controversy that it has created. This blaster was featured in one of my earliest Can It Take a K-26 episodes. It's referred to as, I believe, the Star Wars Rebel Electronic Blaster, or something along those lines. And when I discovered that it could, in fact, take a K-26 and then some, and once brassed, it became just a beast of a single-shot pistol, I mentioned that I wanted to give it a full cosmetic paint job, make an Imperial officer uniform, and join the 501st. And this generated some interesting nerd rage from some of my fans who were absolutely incensed by the idea that I would use the Rebels blaster in my Imperial officer cosplay. So let us start at the beginning. This is meant to be a reproduction of the Blastake DH-17. It was first seen in the Star Wars saga in 1977 in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And it is the blaster that all of the Rebels were carrying in the hallway when the Stormtroopers blew the door down and wiped them out. The Stormtroopers were, of course, armed with the Blastake E11, and as a result of that opening scene, most people see this as the Rebel blaster, and this as the Stormtrooper blaster. And yes, this is the blaster most commonly used by the Stormtroopers. There are other blasters that they use, and this is the blaster that was most commonly used by the Rebels, or at least the ones on that particular ship. There were other blasters used later in the trilogy. And this is also the standard, one of the standard issued blasters for Imperial officers. If you watch the detention block scene of A New Hope, you will notice that the majority of the officers that get shot there were carrying this blaster. The main officer was carrying an E11, but the rest of the junior officers were all carrying DH-17s. Another blaster that is also an Imperial officer blaster is, in fact, the DL-44, also made by Blastech, but this one is the one that's, always associated with Han Solo because he uses one. His is much more heavily modified than the standard Imperial officer ones. But again, in A New Hope, when they first get onto the Death Star and take out that first control room and shoot the two officers, both of them were carrying DL-44s. They didn't have the scopes on them, and one of them, I think, actually gets it drawn, and the other one gets blown away before he even gets his gun out of his holster. But that was also a standard issue Imperial blaster, and it's not surprising that Han Solo has one, because in the original canon, or in some versions of the canon, who knows what Disney is going to do with his backstory, he was actually an Imperial officer, and so it's not surprising he would have an Imperial officer sidearm. So there you have it. When I say that I want to do an Imperial officer cosplay, I could use an E11, but it would actually be more accurate and more correct to use either the DH-17 or the DL-44, and I want to use the DH-17 just because I've always kind of liked the look of it. So, with that out of the way, what do I plan to do with my Star Wars blasters going forward? Well, obviously, this one is going to get painted up to look exactly as much like a replica from the movie as I can, so I can use it in cosplay. I will probably do something similar to a Stormtrooper blaster. These ones don't look enough like original Stormtrooper blasters. They were designed to look more like the First Order ones, of course, and of course they had to make certain modifications to be able to make them fire, so they don't look as much like the originals as this one does. The same goes for the DL-44. Obviously, they had to make this a lot larger in order to accommodate Nerf darts, and this, the sight is, of course, supposed to be more on the side, but I would be more interested in making this look more like an Imperial officer gun, again, painting it up to be as realistic as possible. This one, on the other hand, somebody recommended that I make it front pup, and I actually really like that idea, because it'll be just like my pump action Magnus, except it will fire elites. I will definitely want to do some major internal modifications because this is just not a very impressive blaster as it is. I have a great stack of Captain Cassian blasters that Jomo sent me, one of which is mine, and that I do want to paint up in my colors and do at least 130s. I'd love to put a full auto kit in to see if the Strife full auto kit can be crammed into here to make it work. It almost certainly can because this is, of course, just a reshelled Strife. And I just really like the look of it, and I'd like to get it painted up in my colors. Jomo's will, of course, all be painted up in his colors, and some will get 130s, some will get 180s. Probably try to make some of them full auto. I mean, he sent me a whole stack of them just so I could go to town, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I also do have the Death Trooper blaster, the pump action triad, that I intend to gut and try to shove the largest plunger tube I can into it and make it fire all 3 darts at once, because I would have then a pump-action 3-shot shotgun, and that pleases me. Plus, it'll be, you know, it's a Stormtrooper, it's a Death Trooper blaster, it's a Star Wars blaster, I want one. So, okay, I do now have enough additional Star Wars blasters to do a whole episode of Can It Take a K-26 just on the Star Wars blasters that I haven't done yet. The Stormtrooper blaster and pistol, the Captain Cassian small pistol, the Death Trooper pistol, or blaster. All of those are going to be in probably this season. I'll probably get around to them. I have a whole list of other K-26 episodes that I need to get done, so look forward to that. I would actually love to do a whole Star Wars Nerf War loadout, just for fun. Come up with some kind of a costume that's a little more Star Wars-y than my usual loadout. Fun with that. I want to do a bunch of interesting loadouts going forward, so that's kind of where I stand as far as what I want to do with the Nerf Star Wars. I'm looking forward to what they come out with in the future, just because they keep getting better and better as they go. So there you have it. Any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts, corrections? Go ahead and put them in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for watching, and of course, may the 4th be with you.